Hello, I'm Áron, this is the Behind the Book, and here is Jón Kalman Stefánsson from Iceland, novelist and poet with me. First of all, congratulations for the Budapest Grand Prize.
Thanks a lot.
And your newest novel, The Yellow Submarine, and the selection of your poems have just appeared in Hungarian translation by the publishers Jelenkor and Tipotex, and the novel is translated by Patat Bence and the poems by Egyed Veronika. Allow me to start with a half theoretical and half emotional question. What are the main differences for you between lyric poetry and novels?
It's hard to put a finger on it, but you know, there's a reason for I didn't write a poem in almost 15 years, and because it's in totally different place inside me, the poems and the prose. You know, when I write my novels, they are floating with poetry. You know, because the poetry is just part of my breathing. But writing poetry is simply very different, and it's very difficult to describe it. But you know, you know, when you're writing prose, you know, I can sit down. You know, I sit down every morning and write. You know, I just and it comes and write. With poems, they come when they want to come. So when they come, I'm super happy and I sit down and write. But I can't call on them as the prose.
And your first book of poems was published 36 years ago. How did your opinion of poetry changed since then? And how did you select the old poems for this new volume?
Well, you know, it's looking at this you know, poem from last century when I was a young man. It's like, you know, it's like meeting someone that you knew in the old days, and it's not exactly yourself, but there is someone that you are very fond of, and some of the poems you can see that they are written by young men and imperfect in many ways, but they have this eagerness of a young poet, and sometimes that's even more important for a young poet, this eagerness and burning for saying something or doing something. The other thing, you know, the sophisticated thing that come later. So I'm always glad when I open up a book of poem by a young poet, and I can feel that there is the youth, there is the eagerness and the power, and it always makes me happy.
Wonderful. And you've written that as a child you didn't see that you had a place anywhere, you didn't really fit in anywhere. How does this outsiderness help your writing? How important is it in your ars poetics?
Well, you know, it's hard for me to say because, you know, I've always been like that. Yes. And I always feel like that, but perhaps more when I was younger and didn't know what to do with myself and what I should do with my life, and I totally felt like almost like an alien, you know, from outer space or something, but I think that helps me, you know, in writing, and I think many, not only poets or writers, but many artists, they feel a bit like that, you know, that they are not totally in tune with the world, and you know, if it's important or as it should be, I don't know, but I think if you have that kind of feeling, then you can see the world in a different light than the others, and that's exactly what you are supposed to do as a writer. You see the life and everything in a different from a different point of view.
And one more quotation from you. Literature does not respect any rules. It is the untamable cat. This is one of my favorite lines from you. How does this appear in your creative methods? How can you keep it in mind when you are writing?
Well, I don't keep anything in mind while I'm writing. It just flows, you know, but it is inside me, you know. I have never understood all the rules of, and that was one of the reasons for I felt outside when I was a kid, because I had the feeling that everybody was more or less playing in a theater, you know. They are all acting by some rules or something, and speaking as they should be speaking, and I never understood that, and I was never good at that, but literature, both prose and poetry, we have the tendency to you know, have all kinds of trends, you know, absurdism and realism and modernism, and, you know, whatever, and that's fine, but in its core, it's totally without any rules, and therefore it can be so powerful, because you can't put a fence around poetry and prose. It will break every rule, and I think that's good for both a novelist and a poet to have it inside him or her, always to try to find a new way to tell a story or write a poem. Maybe it will not succeed, but if you try, maybe you will gain something.
And what about rock music? Because you write a lot about rock music, and novel's title is Yellow Submarine, and two songs, Things We Said Today and Yellow Submarine, which are also highlighted as a first gesture of the novel. What do you think? How come that a music band can have such profound effect on humanity?
Well, music is, of course, I envy the people who write music, because that's totally without boundaries. Because, you know, when you take a guitar or piano or something, I sit down at the piano and start to play, you reach out to everyone. The language doesn't matter anymore, and you play directly to the feelings. And to your heart, not to your mind. While when you read, you are both reading with your mind and your heart. Music, it doesn't need the brain. It just needs the core of the humanity, and its place, you know, with every string of your body and of your soul. And everyone has a song which, when you hear the song, you remember something. You remember the person, you remember a place, or whatever. So, and it's something, you know. Well, it's not like football, but football, you can sit down here in Budapest or in Rome or wherever and begin to talk to strangers about Barcelona or Liverpool, and you have a friend. And if you have a bag and there's a sentence, you know, from the Beatles or Nina Simone or Nick Cave, somebody will start to talk to you, and you have a friend.
And what about cultural references? Because you have a lot of cultural references in the newest novel, from the Sumerian stone tablets to the Bible and to the Beatles. How could they help us in our little life?
Well, for me, it's all the same. You know, the Gilgamesh poem from you know, almost 5,000 years old, and the newest song, you know, by Nas or whoever. I mean, for me, it's more or less the same thing. And you know, we are humans because we have art. Without art, we would be lost. and that's because art has all our feelings, all our longings, all our tears, all our laughter, and it has everything that we don't understand about ourselves. And if you will take everything away, we will be doomed, and so we will be very unhappy.
Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.